Welcome to the Hyper Growth Zone podcast. This is your go-to resource for personal growth, mastering communication, and influencing and persuasion techniques that will help you unleash the full potential of yourself and others. Here is your host, Alex Morgan.
Welcome to another episode of the Hyper Growth Zone podcast. My name is Alex Morgan, and I'm a master trainer of hypnosis and NLP. And today's episode, we have Dr. Tracy Gapin, a leading men's health optimization and longevity expert. He's the founder of the Gapin Institute for Precision Medicine and a board-certified urologist with over 25 years of experience. Dr. Gapin helps high-performing entrepreneurs, athletes, and executives reach peak performance through cutting-edge, data-driven health strategies. He's a best-selling author, TEDx speaker, and trusted by top professionals to optimize their health and energy. All right, Dr. Gapin, thanks so much for joining the show. I appreciate you being here.
You bet, Alex. Glad to be here with you today.
Awesome. So we're just chatting a bit. We want to kind of start out with the 30,000 foot view of why health is so important and everything. So you can just touch on that a bit and let everyone know how you feel about that.
Yeah, for sure. So, we're all striving for peak performance, right? And peak performance means something different for everybody. Peak performance for me, I'm a businessman. I run a high level executive performance business. I'm a doctor, I'm a leader in the community, but most importantly for me, peak performance is all about being the best dad I can be for my 11-year-old boy and 9-year-old little princess. And that's everything to me. And how can I be the best husband I can be? And how can I be the best role model? And so I want to first clarify that, peak performance means something different to everybody, but we're all striving to really, how can I be the best version of myself? How can I be my absolute best again? Because we all tend to remember how I used to be, right? How I used to be able to perform at my highest level. And so that lays the foundation for health. And I like to think that health can be your greatest asset when it comes to peak performance, or it could be your greatest liability. And I think that one of the big mistakes that a lot of high performers make in all fields is by not paying attention to their health until it's too late. And a lot of guys think, well, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Men especially, women are a little better at this than men, but men are like, if I don't feel any problems, I'm not going to go see a doctor. I'm not going to do anything about it. And our disease-centric, focus of treating illness that, especially here in the U.S., is so prevalent, that's really what got us in this place in the first place. Got us to this problem, to where we are. And so what I want to do is really get men to really open their eyes and have a very different perspective and be more proactive and look for those, what I call them, blind spots in your health that may be either holding you back from peak performance or maybe lurking just under the surface waiting to cause a problem, and it may be too late when you realize it.
That's a really good point, because hypertension is something that runs in my family, and unfortunately I have some hypertension. It's under control. However, I can definitely feel, because I've had it for quite some time, I can feel when it's kind of getting out of control and things like this. So now I'm on the, hey, let's get things checked out every year. Before I was like, okay, it's really, really bad. Now I got to go in. So with something like, health and advanced diagnostics, let's say, how could that apply to someone who may have something kind of in their family genes or something like that?
Yeah, this applies to any man. Let me give you a story that I think will drive the point home here really well. So Bob Harper, he is a fitness trainer, and he's on the TV show The Biggest Loser, teaching people how to lose weight, how to get in shape. And he looks amazing, right? He's like the epitome of good health. We all aspire to look like Bob Harper, and that guy looks healthy. How is it then that Bob Harper at the age of 51 had a massive heart attack that almost killed him? The answer is Bob Harper looked healthy. Bob Harper was not healthy. And this is what I mean by blind spots. I have one of my clients, Sean. He looks incredible, amazing. Lab numbers look pretty darn good. We did heart imaging. We did a calcium score, which is a CAT scan of your heart to look for plaque. That score should be 0. At age 36, his score was 212. He looks amazing on the outside. On the inside, we see a very different picture. And so the point to drive home here is you think you're doing great. There are blind spots in your health that you have no idea are even there. I have 2 NFL wide receivers who I'm actively working with, and their free testosterone levels, looking at diagnostics here, looking at hormones specifically, their free testosterone level, which should be around 20 ideally, optimized free testosterone is 20. Both of theirs was 6, and they're performing in the NFL. Like, imagine if they were where they were supposed to be. And so we have guys walking around like ticking time bombs, not realizing all the issues when it relates to their lipids, as it relates to inflammation, hormones, blood sugar regulation, nutrient levels that are all dramatically affecting your performance on a daily basis.
So then what usually gets these high performers, let's say something catastrophic doesn't happen, like you mentioned Bob Harper where he had a heart attack. What gets these guys then, these peak performers, to be like, hey, I have to do something about this, or at least I should get checked out? What usually kind of goes off in their mind to signal that?
So a couple different paths there. One, right now, a lot of guys are very aware of getting lab testing done. You know, there are a lot of companies out there pushing for lab testing, and I love that because that brings awareness to the space. That's great. The problem with almost all of them out there is they do the labs and then they leave you hanging. So they come to us when they're like, what do I do now? But I think it's a great way to start to get your laboratory testing done. And most traditional healthcare practices, most medical doctors out there don't even know most of the lab tests that you should be checking. And I'll give you an example. The Bob Harper story I shared with you, his issue was LP little a, lipoprotein A, which is capital L little p and then a little a in parentheses, LP little a. I never heard of that when I spent 25 years as a board certified urologist. I never heard of that lab test. I have friends of mine who are concierge medicine docs. They never heard of it. Critical lab everyone should be getting. That's a genetically inherited subtype of LDL. ApoB, which stands for apolipoprotein B, another lab test everyone should be getting checked. Most doctors don't ever even look at that, don't even know what it is. It's way more impactful and more predictive of risk than LDL cholesterol, which is fairly insignificant as it relates to more particle count like you see with ApoB. Looking at hormones, most doctors are looking at total testosterone. You want to be looking at free testosterone. Free testosterone is the only testosterone that can actually get into the cell and actually have any physiologic impact or effect. Most testosterone is bound to other proteins in the blood that render it useless. So check free testosterone. Thyroid is a hormone that men need to be worried about. It's very important. You need to be looking at T3. Most guys don't ever even look at the thyroid hormone. Very important as it relates to cognitive function, and energy, and mood, and building muscle, and a lot of stuff that we think of testosterone is actually thyroid. DHEA, nitric oxide, vitamin D, the hormones that we look at go on and on. There's probably 50 then that we pay attention to. Most guys need to be looking at those. Blood sugar regulation, fasting insulin is one of the best ways to understand how well your body's regulating blood sugar. Not just for diabetics anymore, for any high performer, you want to be regulating blood sugar. Can't lose weight, can't burn fat, can't build muscle if you have high blood sugar. So very important for anyone, not just diabetics. Markers of inflammation, CRP is a big one. Every guy should be getting checked. So these are just a few of the basic biomarkers that I think that every high performer out there should be getting as just a screening for your, blind spots, I call them, that may be lurking under the surface that need more attention. And, that's the diagnostics. I call step 2, the deep dive, where you now start to understand why are they abnormal.
Okay, so what's the best way to kind of get the word out? Obviously, we're speaking about this on a podcast, but how do you kind of market to these high performers, these peak performers, to let them know, like, this is so important? Especially, you mentioned, yourself having 2 kids. For people with kids and stuff, obviously, it's extra important to, be there for their kids.
It is. And most of the guys I work with are, a high-performing wealth advisor, a high-performing small business owner. One guy's teaching plumbers how to build their business. Another guy is as a race car driver. Another guy is running a huge medical practice. Another guy is a real estate investor. So high performer means something different to everyone, but all of us want the same thing. And, stress is a big part of that. Stress is, trying to juggle work, trying to juggle our spouse, trying to juggle the kids, all of other responsibilities in the community as a leader. And then, oh, by the way, how about some free time for myself to do the things that I love to do? And it gets very challenging. And one of the things that always suffers is our health. And so getting these high-performing individuals to pay attention to it is hard because we tend to neglect our health. I was guilty of it myself. I was neglecting my own health until it became suddenly a glaring problem. And so I'm on tons of podcasts. I gave a TED Talk. I wrote a book. I'm on stages. I talk to mastermind groups. Alex, great question. The answer, I go everywhere I can, and I'm shouting from the rooftops to get guys just to pay attention, look for your blind spots, and then we can start to dive into understanding how do we address them.
Okay, so we got them hopefully seeing the blind spots now, which is something I help people with more with the mind, like what's deep down in there to where, why aren't they believing in themselves and things like this. So what's kind of the next step then? Maybe they go in for some lab results and things like that, but how do you really optimize someone to where they're peak performer in their health?
Yeah, so there are so many people out there. From that point, they're going to sell you a stack of 8 peptides, which I call bullshit on, excuse my language, but it's utter nonsense to be prescribing a bunch of peptides based on just a blood panel. It's insane. Or they're selling you a bunch of supplements all of a sudden after doing 4 genetic SNPs. It's ridiculous. There are predators out there. I think you need to better understand, how do you understand what's right for you? You know, how do you individualize? And I like to say test, don't guess, because one size fails all instead of one size fits all. And so when it comes to what supplementation, what hormones do you need, what nutrition's right, what should I be eating, all that stuff, well, it depends. And so I do a lot of advanced functional testing, looking at the gut, looking at cortisol, looking at other key markers of metabolism, do a lot of cardiovascular imaging. We use genetics, where a simple cheek swab can help us understand what the heck you should be eating and what should you not be eating. And macronutrient, carb, fats, and protein breakdown. A lot of details we can understand from some very simple functional testing. And then once I get that back, then I can move on to step 3, which is the design, where I can help kind of design a blueprint or a plan for you of what the hell do I do. And I hear it every day, Alex. Guys always say, just tell me what to do. 6 words, just tell me what to do and I'll do it. And guys are simple creatures, right? I'll do whatever the hell you just tell me what to do. And so then once we've done all that, we've done the diagnostics and the deep dive, now I can really design for you a plan of just freaking do this, eat this, not that, take these supplements, take these hormones. And then I like to use the analogy of a cake at this point, where the foundational elements of your cake are your nutrition, your gut health, your hormones, your sleep, your environment, your mindset. I know you do a lot of work with mind work and how stress impacts you and your mindset and all that is so important. Toxins. And when you put all that together, you build your cake. Now you can start to put on the icing on the cake. Now we're talking about the sexy peptides and the hyperbarics and the plasmapheresis and the red light and the sauna and the cryo and all these cool cutting-edge treatments that are out there that everyone loves to do. Those are great modalities in the right context and with proper nuance. But again, those are the icing on the cake. And it's kind of like you would never, or someone may, but it's kind of weird, to go to the grocery store, get a can of Duncan Hines frosting and just eat the frosting out of it, right? That doesn't make any sense. But when you put on that cake, it tells a whole different story, different context. And this is where I'll drive the point home that I love peptides, for example. They're amazing when it comes to recovery, when it comes to energy, when it comes to musculoskeletal healing, anxiety, depression, gut health, sexual function, hair, skin, nails. Amazing benefits of peptides for almost anything you can imagine, but they're the icing on the cake. And if you don't have the other stuff dialed in first, hormones, gut health, blood sugar, etc., you're wasting your time. So that's the design part. And then the last step of my kind of 4-step approach to all this, Alex, is the data. And I like to say, know your numbers, because how do you know that whatever you're doing is actually freaking working? And so many people out there are they're on Twitter or Reddit telling you what you should do, and they're shooting all over you. Well, how do you know that's right for you? Well, the answer is you got to be using data to measure it. And so I love wearables, whether it's, an Oura ring or an HRV, a chest strap to measure HRV, which is a great marker of stress. You could actually measure directly stress, measuring blood sugar, measuring sleep, measuring body composition. And that data helps you truly understand and measure, if what you're doing is working, and you can then create, KPIs or key performance indicators for your health, just like you do for your business. This is how we win. And this ties directly back to your performance, your success, and your revenue in your business directly correlates with your health.
It's funny, when you started mentioning Twitter and Reddit, I was actually already thinking of that when you said the hyperbaric, the red light, and all of this. Yeah. So how do you kind of get someone who wants to like speed right to the icing on that cake to be like, hey, we really got to dial in everything else first? What do you usually, how do you kind of sell them on that idea? Because everyone's looking for that highlight reel usually.
Yeah, the key is you got to get results fast. In this day and age where it's a immediate gratification kind of world right now, guys got to see success quick. And so what my team and I do when I work with the high performers is in those first 3 months, we got to freaking get results. And so we put together the best stack. And it's literally a customized stack of hormones, supplements, nutrition, lifestyle regimen with some peptides sprinkled in there as well to get those results fast. And I love the word momentum as it relates to answering this question, Alex, because I think what a lot of guys are missing is momentum when it comes to their health. And if you could just start to see some results and start to see some success and start to see that you're able to lift a few more weights in the gym, you have a little more energy, sex is a little bit better, you're able to go a little bit longer during the day, and you're that much better, that momentum gets you going. You see the lab numbers, you see the biometric data on your wearables. That's when you start to really get some compounding results because you've built momentum.
And when you have that momentum, does it also, because you're able to go longer during the day and all these other things, how does that directly relate to sleep? Because there's a lot of people with sleep issues, and I help people with that specific idea. So I'm kind of interested to hear your perspective on that.
Dude, I'm glad you bring that up because that is the most common issue guys have, high-performing guys have, is sleep. And it's from one of two things. Number one is sleep hygiene or lifestyle, or what are you doing at night before you go to bed? And I'll quickly go through the 5 things I like to recommend before you go to bed for guys out there. Take notes. Number one is read. I don't mean you can't use a phone, you can't use a tablet, an iPad, a Kindle. No blue light for the last 2 hours before you go to bed. So we're talking like an actual physical paper book. So you can read. You can journal. I love journaling to really keep track of the successes, your wins of the day. Gratitude is so incredibly powerful when you can just document what you're grateful for and how thankful you are for what you have in your life. It's the gain rather than the gap kind of concept from Dan Sullivan's Gap in the Game book. Meditation. I know you do a lot of work on mindset work, and I believe in the power of meditation. I'm a science guy. I'm a surgeon by background, 25 years as a surgeon, but I now see the light, and I see the science behind the power of meditation and mindfulness and how much that can really help prepare you for sleep, but also just for life, and it reduces stress. 4th is sauna. I love sauna as a great way just to kind of calm your body and mind for sleep, and a great time to do that is before you go to bed. And we have a sauna on our floor in our bedroom. It's a small, little, compact, portable one that is relatively inexpensive that anyone can get. And you could do 10 minutes of sauna, 15 minutes of sauna before you go to bed. Fantastic. And then the 5th one is sex. Nothing better to calm your mind, calm your body for sleep than sex. And so 5 things you could do. I would not do them all at the same time. That'd be really freaking weird, but those are 5 things that you can do to kind of calm your body and mind. And so I would plan on, if you need to wake up at 6 a.m., let's just say, count backwards and starting, 7 hours before that is when you need to be asleep. So that would be 11 o'clock. You got to be asleep. That means that stuff happens from 9 p.m. to 11 p.m. Work backwards, and it's that simple. And now you've constructed your night. You know exactly how much time you have for other stuff. So if you're a Netflix kind of guy, you got between 7 p.m. and 9 p.m., let's just say, to enjoy Netflix. 9 p.m., it's time to move on, transition to that preparation for sleep. Sleep is the most important 8 hours of your life. And so guys tend to, number one, sacrifice it by just intentionally not doing what they got to do for bedtime. Or the second reason guys struggle with sleep is you do everything we talked about. You go to sleep at 11 o'clock, and then it's 2:33 in the morning. You wake up, and your mind's suddenly going. Maybe you go pee a little bit. That's not what woke you up. It's the stress. It's the cortisol. And you've woken up. Now you're thinking about what I should have done yesterday, what I need to do tomorrow, and your mind is going, and it can't stop. And next thing you know, you're scrolling on Twitter for an hour. That's all stress. That's all cortisol. That's all imbalance. You have this yin and yang from in your nervous system, and that's imbalance and stress. And most guys will say, I'm not stressed. It doesn't bother me. Well, number one, I can actually measure and prove that it's affecting you. But number two, the most common way it shows up is like that. So now what happens is when the morning comes around, you feel like shit. You're tired. You're not motivated to work out like you're supposed to in the morning. You're not eating the right foods like you're supposed to. You're going through the day. You're not nearly as productive as you need to be. You don't get your stuff done that you need to get done because you're in this fog all day. And so now evening comes around and you're like, oh crap, I didn't get done what I was supposed to get done earlier because the day got past me and I don't know what happened. And now you're struggling to catch up. So now it's like 9, 10, 11 at night and you're working to do the stuff you could have done earlier if you were more productive. And it becomes this ugly, vicious cycle where stress begets poor sleep, which begets stress, and it becomes a never-ending, perpetual cycle. And so that's why stress and sleep are so important and they're so closely related.
Yeah, the stress, because the one thing that's continuously going when we're sleeping is our unconscious mind. That's when it's replenishing us and doing all these wonderful things. So when someone has this sort of stress and they come to you and say, hey, I woke up in the middle of the night and they don't think it's necessarily stress, what do you specifically help them with? Can it be done with supplements, or is it something where you have a chat with them and find out what they're doing? Or
I just throw apeptides at it, and that seems to do the trick. I'm kidding. No, I'm totally not messing with you. I'm being sarcastic here. That's the last thing you want to do. No. Yeah, so when you have that, number one, it's a combination. So, from a very comprehensive systems approach, it's lifestyle first. So you need to really create balance in your life and really be very intentional about the micro decisions you're making on a daily basis. Understand also that stress is not just psychological. So a lot of people think of stress as finances and work and kids and marriage, etc. Well, no. Stress can also be stress from issues in the gut, microbiome or issues with imbalance in the microbes in our gut and toxins in our environment that are affecting us. Okay, endocrine disruptors or toxins in the food we're drinking, in the eating, in the water we're drinking, in our personal care products. These can cause issues in our gut. These can cause inflammation in our body. And so stress could be from toxins. Stress could be from blood sugar imbalance, where you're eating the wrong foods. You're eating too much sugar. You're eating too much packaged stuff. You're not eating a properly well-balanced diet, or you're drinking too much alcohol. You're eating the wrong type of foods. You're overtraining. Yes, fitness, strength training is so incredibly important. Some guys are overtraining. That's another source of stress. You're not sleeping, we just talked about. So a lot of different triggers of stress. And so the first part of this is to understand, where's the stress coming from? Is it purely psychological? Is it a work-life balance issue? Is it a gut issue? Is it hormones? Is it blood sugar? Is it toxins? Is it nutrition? And so it takes it takes work. It takes a deep dive to understand that. And this is where a lot of people are looking for that quick, easy, magic shortcut. Give me the 8 magic peptides. Well, those don't exist. It's all bullshit. If you really want sustainable results, you need to be intentional. And that's where the 4-step process I outlined is so effective, because we identify the really deep root cause of that stress so that we can fix it. And that's where most people are missing out.
Yeah, I think that's a good point to run home again, like the root cause. Because even when I work with people, if I can find the root cause of the problem in their mind, then we can get rid of the whole strand of emotion or whatever it is that they're dealing with. Now, I like the word that you use, design, because that's what I do. I design a lot of things in people's mind. They design it. I just kind of guide them along. So if someone were to, one of the reasons I think people have problems is because they haven't actually considered things that they probably need to consider. They're not really aware of them. So let's say that someone has like $1 million to spend on their health in the next 30 days, and it doesn't really matter whether they think they can afford this or not. What are some things that you would do to really just boost this area of their life?
Yeah, I love the diagnostics first. I love the testing, just simply testing first, and that helps us identify what do we need to address, what are the blind spots, what are the issues that need the most attention. And then from there, once I do the initial testing, I'm able to create what I call a core 3. And the core 3 I stole from Steve Jobs. When he first founded Apple, he had this big idea that when his managers came to him with the most pressing issues, and they'd have a list of 10 things we got to do, and the other manager had 10 things we got to do, and the other manager the same thing. He said, no, guys, give me 3. Because he knew, genius, that you can only focus on 3 things at a time, and that you can't fix too many things at one time. It gets overwhelming. And especially the guys I work with, a lot of the stuff I'm talking about is complex. They never heard it. It's like a different language to them. And so I'll construct a core 3 for you. So for you, Alex, your core 3 is inflammation, blood sugar, and hormones. I'm going to fix those 3 things only this quarter. That's our quarterly goal, our quarterly, like EOS, I think of rocks in EOS. It's like your quarterly rocks. Next quarter, we'll reassess and we'll construct a new core 3 of what are the most pressing issues now. But you can't focus on more than 3 at a time or else it gets overwhelming. And so what I tell that guy is do the testing first, find out what we got to address, and then we're going to freaking do it 3 at a time.
And so how long do people typically work with you if they're fixing things or working on things every quarter? What can someone expect, would you say?
Yeah. So I find that without question in the first 90 days, massive transformation. And that's where we start to create momentum. And again, I use that word again intentionally because I think it's such a powerful way to explain how we get results. But then it comes around to, once you do the 4-step process, the diagnostics, the deep dive, the design, and then the data, it's test, fix, repeat, test, fix, repeat. And here I use #better. Because I believe we can always be better. Every one of us can be better. There's something that we can improve upon. There's some way that we can be just a little bit better every day. And what are those steps that we need to take? And so to me, it's a glaring example of what's wrong with our healthcare system in that we treat you and tell you you're done, you're fine, come back when there's a problem, and we're done. And I think that we can always be better and we can always improve. And it's finding what's the lowest hanging fruit. What do we got to fix next? What's your core 3 for the quarter? And never be satisfied. And when we think of, I think of health now, not as treating symptoms or illness or disease, but health optimization, meaning how can I continually optimize and improve and be better?
Yeah, I can tell. Obviously, I know you're an intelligent person and the people you work with are really intelligent. So after they work with you, let's say for a quarter, I was thinking before you even said okay, usually our healthcare system, we go back when there's a problem. How long does it take for them to realize hey, I really need to make all of these things a habit so I can continue peak performance everywhere because of my health?
The very beginning, when we do the initial testing, is when guys get a real wake-up call when they see the blood test, they see the functional test, they see the imaging, they see all the real data that helps someone. We can measure biologic age. I can actually measure how fast or slow your body is aging right now, which is incredible technology. And that helps get them to just, first of all, the first step is be aware that you need help. Be aware that you can't do this on your own. There are a lot of things out there. You can go online, go to GPT or Claude, and it'll tell you how to do stuff. This is not a DIY kind of thing. This is too complex. And Dan Sullivan had a great book that he wrote with Ben Hardy called Who Not How. And I really believe in this concept of, find your who can do it for you faster and easier than trying to learn how to do it yourself. And so guys who honor that and who pay attention to that, those are the ones who are going to get the best results because they're bought in, they're willing to say, hey, let's go and let's commit to getting real results. And it's an investment. If you work with me, it's an investment. But we're going to get significant results for that significant investment because that's really what it's all about. And, there's nothing more important in my mind than your health.
Well, and you're basically investing in your health, which can buy you a lot more time, and time to some people may not exist, but it's kind of the only finite resource we have. So I think we touched on a lot of good stuff here. I think that's a good note to end on, but why don't you tell everyone, where they can find you, what you're offering, and how you can, specifically help them and all that. So plug yourself for a bit.
Yeah, thanks so much. So website's gapininstitute.com, and I have a list of gifts for your listeners. If you go to the page gapininstitute.com, that's GAPIN institute.com /launch, LAUNCH for peak launch. I have a number of gifts on there. Number one, I wrote a best-selling book called Male 2.0. You'll get a free digital copy of Male 2.0. You'll get a free copy of my Ultimate Peptide Guide, which is the latest. I just updated this, latest cutting-edge science around all the great peptides that are out there. my high performance health handbook, 15 strategies and tactics you can use today to have more energy, focus, and drive. There will be information there on a great webinar that I did on a amazing masterclass, if you will. And then there'll also be a link if you want to learn more about the peak launch system. You could jump on a free call with my team. There's information on that as well on that page, gapininstitute.com/launch.
Nice. Tons of good stuff. I need to check out the book definitely because I love to read. So I'm going to find that out. But I appreciate you being here, Dr. Gapin. I learned a lot and I'm sure everyone did too.
Awesome. Thanks so much.
So thanks for listening. And wherever you listen to this podcast, please rate the podcast so it can get into the minds of more people. And I'd love to hear your feedback. And I hope to see you on the next episode.